Okay, definitely a good time to start. Got myself the camera there. Yes. No. Yes. Good. Hello, welcome to another stream of Lyrebird Edits. And tonight we will be working through a story by Solar Star Lord, who you may have seen poking around in this box up here in the chat box. So yes, one of my trusty followers. This story is called The Golden Burglar. Hello, Solar Star Lord. Speak of the devil. Hello. Hello, Cuddly Clementine as well. How are you doing? Hope you've been well. Thank you for joining me for another stream. Don't worry, don't worry. No judgment here. We're all about learning from each other and looking at what's directly in front of us and just going from there without worrying too much about whether or not it's an objectively good story or any of that. We want to make it the best possible with what we're given. So yeah, don't worry too much about it. But one thing I will do is I will put spaces between everything. Line spacing 1.5. Now why is that looking like it's very thick? Because it's aerial. Now it's still looking like it's a bit crazy. Where's Calibri? Calibri. Default font of choice. Alright. I think it looks okay. Thank God. Yeah, I don't think this is the stream of like Lyrebird heavy criticisms. Yeah, I don't think I could bring myself to be a really heavy critic. Because I feel like I'd be throwing stones from a glass house, and you know what we're about here is editing and discussing the ways in which stories can be improved and how to improve them. So that's kind of like the fundamental of what we do, right? So yeah. Which is good, because it means nobody has any tears. Yeah, no tears. That's what we're after. Calipari. I think I've offended Cuddly Clementine. That's right, because we, oh no, that was, Emma the Ruthless. Who we decided was going to be Emma the less brutal. Which is a really good stream name. That's right. I'm trying to think of like how you could change Cuddly Clementine's screen handle so that you take out the cuddly, you put in something else, and she becomes like, well, like the opposite of cuddly. Hmm. Oh, I got a Calibri fan. Have they changed the? Oh no, I see what you've done there, TTLACC. No, I see what you've done there. Welcome back to the stream, by the way. Always a pleasure to see you. Well, I just like some weeds, so well, it's going to be an interesting experience. Reading while having consumed weed? I don't know what that would be like. So, good luck. Is what I'm gonna say. Oh, there you go. Interesting. Cuddly cactus is great. I love that. It's interesting you say that it helps you with like overcoming your symptoms. For people with anxiety, marijuana use can go kind of one of two ways. And I guess depending on what is it? It's the active component being THC. Some people with anxiety report that marijuana use reduces their anxiety, while other people seem to report that it extenuates their anxiety. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. And the thing about drugs, and one thing that I learned from undergraduate chemistry, having taken a subject in drug synthesis, is that they really stress to you the notion that no chemical is purely safe, which makes sense given that we're a big sack of interconnected chemicals, and everything is in a balance. So I can't sit here and pass particular judgment on the long-term health effects of marijuana because I simply just haven't got the research in front of me to make a proper judgment. But yeah, it's interesting that we're having a discussion about cannabis in Australia right now. Certainly, medical cannabis is we're on board with. We're just having a discussion right now about legalization and the mechanisms by which that would take place, who grows it, who distributes it. It's an early conversation. I think if society is going to be hypocritical about drug policies, for example, cigarettes and alcohol are perfectly legal, but marijuana isn't. It's a bit hypocritical. You can argue that marijuana has lesser health effects than combined, well, individual alcohol or nicotine or tobacco usage. But yeah, I'm not a medical professional, so I'll leave it to other people to decide that. I'm a molecular biologist, so I can talk a bit about SSRIs and serotonin pathways. But that's not what we're here for. We're not talking about drugs. We're talking about your story, Solar Star-Lord. This is a rare case of when we say people can see going, wow, that's pretty brutal. I wonder if that's because you're using a different strain, or I mean, I don't know if you're in a state where it's legal or not. You don't have to go into that. But I know that like with the different strains and different THC content, like this psychoactive content of marijuana, people report different experiences with that. I bet my bags now. I think closer to home would be Denmark for you. Correct, Cuddly Clem? Yes. Denmark? Does Denmark have legalization? I mean, everyone knows that the Netherlands, like Amsterdam, is famous for it. What about Denmark? Maybe? I don't know. Right, legal in Amsterdam. There you go. Oh, you say here in Amsterdam, so... Oh, okay. Are you from the Netherlands? Solar Star-Lord. I just assumed you were American. Legal everywhere in Scandinavia. Ah, okay. Interesting. It's interesting how different countries have different attitudes to it. Um, yeah. Oh, you're from the Netherlands. Ah, interesting. I just assume everyone's from America. That's not very good of me. Sorry. this guy, this guy right here. I know where you're from, to DLACC. So yes, segueing back into the story. Grammar could be shit. Don't worry about it. We'll deal with it as we come to it. Let's focus on the story. Actually, one thing I'm gonna do real quick. Yeah, yeah. I'll share it right now. Shareable link. Here it is. So you'll be able to edit this document, TTLA. No, not TTLACC. Solar Star-Lord. I don't know why I was thinking TTLACC. Probably because that was the last thing I saw. Solar Star-Lord, you are no GeForce Game Ready driver. I don't want to click to install the latest GeForce experience. Solar Star-Lord, there you go. Just whispered it to you over Discord so you can access this document. Nice. I don't want to do a Texas accent. I think that would be a disastrous sight, me trying to impersonate an American. I wouldn't want anyone to impersonate an Australian because I would feel bad for you. So, I don't want to reciprocate it. I don't want to make you cringe. I don't want to make anyone cringe. Alright, why don't we start? I'll read out a little bit, probably just at a point that I think might be good to talk about. Ooh, it's quite short tonight. We'll see what happens at the end of his story. We might not be here for all that long tonight. Short stream, couldn't hurt. Unless we might be able to do like a Q&A session or something. G'day, mate. You keep that to yourself, cuddly Clem. G'day, mate. Excuse me? I'm being very rude here, aren't I? Just sorting something out. Coolies. Okay. You got told. Nah, don't worry. I changed this in that version as well. Okay, I'll Is there an erotica or a smart version of Destructive Readers? Asking for a friend, right? 2DLACC? I'm not typing in anything smut related. I'm just looking at the Destructive Readers subreddit to see if they have a can I submit erotica? Yes, please tag it as not safe for work. So I guess in answer to your question, nope, just for myself. I like your honesty. The answer to your question apparently is Destructive Readers. Go for it. But you just tag it as like NSFW or erotica. Ideally, regardless of the genre, you should be able to put something up and say, yes, like edit my stuff, just genre neutral. But I think for erotica, maybe on one hand you want to hold it up to the same standard as all the other genres, and if critiques apply for one genre, they should apply for a second. But maybe by saying that it's erotica, you sort of prime the reader for a bit of a different experience. That couldn't hurt. Yeah. Well, I got off quickly. Yeah, but yeah, apparently they say it's okay. So yeah, Destructive Readers. Good. Close those two tabs. Yes, so as per Solar Star-Lord's request, I will copy-paste the new version of this story over. Oh, excuse me. Wait a second, which one is which? Word. There we go. Here, good. Calibri 11. Normal format, line spacing 1.15. No, that's a little. It's a little too shallow. Why don't we go 1.5? Yes, nice. The other thing I'll do is also put a add space after paragraph. That's kind of, there we go. That's why it was looking a bit thin. Good. All right. Good. Let's start. So there it is, the last house on Brewer Street. Thieving is a harder business than most people think it to be. Of course, nobody ever tells you how hard exactly for, well, obvious reasons. The snow crunched under his feet as he walked up to the front of the house. The clinging of silverware softly left his brown, rugged sack. Cursed winter nights, so hard to get the frost off the windows, he mumbled while scouting the room for valuables. Looking around, there wasn't much of value except a wall of bookshelves, just holding on to the weight of books. One more feather and it would definitely cave. A glittering got his attention. Silverware still on the table, and a golden candlestick holder. What a good day to be working, Jimmy thought. Houses these times are beginning to get harder and harder to break into. 20 years ago it was way easier. A few colleagues even pulled off the biggest heist of the decade back then. The Governor of England wasn't quite pleased, to say the least. Yes, another crooked window frame, he mumbled, even though it got harder every year. Nothing was going to stop Jimmy Fingers, I like that name, from plundering sellable valuables. Jimmy crawled into the little opening of the window and, walking past the bookshelf, there was the sound of a dampened click on the floorboard. He thought it was strange, but he reckoned it was just a loose floorboard or something, and he began putting the silverware and candlestick into the old sack. After he put the last item in his sack, he noticed that where he just snatched the silver plate lay a piece of paper. The note had numbers on it. 3231, Herbology. Isn't that a book? He thought to himself and walked over to the bookshelf. Click, huh. Right on the loose plank. Let's do this, because a lot happens here, and I think we can talk a bit about how it's structured. So I think the first thing to notice isn't so much, I can take it from two different aspects. Sort of, yeah. I'm so used to line spacing and paragraph spacing that without it, for me, it looks strange. So I have like a default list of stuff I do. Yeah. And when you pick up a printed book as well, it has that sort of line spacing in it. Right. That's the impression I get Soul Star a lot about. What we're dealing with here is like the skeleton of the story. It's a map. So you've got like the key elements to future scenes and how they're going to be constructed. So what we'd usually do is, like, as I was reading through this, I treated it as though they were kind of like one sentence markers that could then be extrapolated and smoothed out into full paragraphs. So there it is, the last house on Burrell Street. It's idea one. Thieving is a harder business than most people think it to be. Of course, no one ever tells you how hard exactly, for, well, obvious reasons. So, oops, excuse me. Not there. There. The snow crunched under his feet as he walked up to the front of the house. The clicking of silverware softly left his brown, ragged sack. And then he says this, but he mumbled while scouting the room for valuables. So here, we've got these 5 elements. Now usually, the start of a story will physically ground you to your character. So what happens here is that character, Jimmy Fingers, walks up. It's a great name. Really good name for a character who's a thief. He walks up into the front of the house, and the narrator introduces the general scene. This idea here is a bit more of a meta-narrative component. It doesn't strictly relate to the action, the direct action of a story, which is Jimmy Fingers walking up to the house. But in the space of a couple of sentences here, we've gone from being outside to being inside. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to establish everything that this is here in one paragraph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and this is my symbol for this edit, for everything above it is being condensed down into something that I'm going to be writing here. Okay, well, hopefully tonight what we'll do is I'll treat this as like a plan for a story, in a sense. And I'll do that because a lot of these ideas are very distant from each other. There's sort of stuff in between them that we can talk about. They're a bit like, imagine you're skiing down a hill, and skiers have those the red and blue flags that they have to to swim, ski between. I think they're red and blue anyway. Regardless, they're like the markers of the story. And if you imagine that you as a reader of a skier, you're navigating between those markers. So I'm treating these as the markers. And what we'll try and do tonight is, I guess, glue them all together and how to tie that in with more of a narrative flow to it. Gotcha. Well, if you want, you can write it like a movie script. I don't have a huge amount of experience with writing scripts because they're very particular. But writing out short stories is it's more my thing, I guess. So the information contained up here is the opening scene, or opening sequence. Now, this isn't to say that I'm going to write it out all for you, but it's more just a demonstration of what you do to take this from an idea into a narrative. So, idea 1, Jimmy Fingers comes to the house. 2, the narrator is going to be telling us that times have changed. It's oh no, that's later. This is it's trickier than it looks. Snow crunched under his feet, and he's already got the haul from the night, so... In fact, this is a totally fine opening sentence. There it is, the last house on Brewer Street. Chimney, living room windows. Sorry. Meticulous. See how meticulous he is. Right, here is how you condense that into a narrative, or at least what I think it would be. Hey Liberto114, welcome back to the stream. I can't but ask why in the notehead numbers the had has red underline. Cause the notehead numbers. Oh, here. It's not technically wrong. The note had numbers written on it. The tree had a... Yeah, no, that's right. Isn't that weird? Hmm, that's good spotting. Consider the sentence, the tree had always been a fixture in the park. The tree had always been. The number had numbers written on it. Had always been is a bit different, but the note had numbers. Like it's not grammatically wrong. There were numbers written on the note. Is the passive way of saying it. I don't think it's wrong. I don't know what Google's on about. It's just practice, Saltless Star-Lord. But all I've done is I've just taken your ideas and I've filled them. But don't let that deter you. All I've really done is I've gone back and pinched a point where I think a scene starts and ends. And I think to myself, okay, here are the elements of what could make a good opening paragraph. And so I then just mush it all together. I guess when you're writing like a little sketch for the first time, you can definitely do what you've done just to get some ideas on the page. And dictionary's brain DDoS. Yeah, it's almost the case, isn't it? Like, it's not wrong, is it? Hmm. Hmm. Here's a here's a tip. If you feel like you don't want to write like this, if you feel as though you're trying to aim for what I've done, but instead it comes out like this, maybe try not using the enter key. That's a mistake that a lot of authors, writers, everyone at different stages of their writing career, usually early on, it's a mistake that they make because you don't want your writing to be comprised of little one-sentence paragraphs. Because everything here, it's the first thing I noticed in the story, not so much the grammar, because you know grammar can be fixed. Grammar is easy to fix. It's the structure. What the carriage return, the enter does, is it breaks off an idea and it means that you can't return to it. So there's this idea, but instead of writing more about the idea, you break it off and go into a new line. Again, like that's fine if you just getting the idea on the page. What it means though is that, as I said, you can't extend that idea out. And it's sort of like you're tumbling down the narrative. So practice not using the return key. Just keep writing. You've got an idea, there it is, the last house on Brewer Street. You may be tempted to go, okay, my next idea is that, okay, we've got a thief, but it's hard stuff. When you read another story, you'll notice that unless it's a very quick action scene, usually you'll want a bit of establishing. Like imagine it's a you're watching this and you've got the camera and it's at the edge of a street and you see Jimmy Fingers walking up and he's a shadow and everything's nice and spooky. If this is the camera that goes around, it's a cut of everything. So here's the house, close up of Jimmy's face. This one, Jimmy's walking. Now he's in the sorry, and then like there's a sack on his back, now he's in the kitchen. But for the reader it happens way too quickly. Don't be afraid to write out, just maybe do a little exercise, just keep writing. Write until you have like 7 or 8 lines, then hit that carriage return and go to the new line. Yeah. Yeah, Cuddly Clay makes a really good observation. Pick a self-published story on Amazon Kindle. Anyone? Open up a sample. You're very likely to see people write very short paragraphs. It's a very quick skim through way of telling if a story's been edited or not. Usually the stories on Amazon Kindle don't get edited before they get put up. Um, yeah. On that note, if you're considering publishing on Amazon Kindle, um, treat your story like a bit of an investment. This sounds, to me it sounds cringy saying that because I don't like the artificial nature of consumer art and marketing and it and sort of Facebook-esque personality building. It just rubs me up the wrong way. Until um you come to a realization that your story on Amazon Kindle is first and foremost a consumable. That's the horrible reality of it. But it doesn't mean you have to treat it like such. What it does mean, though, is that you do need to do things that you might not consider you need to do. I think maybe when I was assessing whether self-publishing was worthwhile, for me it was always a point of oh, how much marketing would I have to do? Would I have to be one of those obnoxious, snarky Twitter personalities? No, absolutely not. That's not what good marketing for your story is. Good marketing for your story, it turns out, and this isn't my own wisdom, this is like a couple of months worth of browsing the subreddit self-publish, which is a really good subreddit. Gravelox on there is just a fountain of wisdom. It comes down to some surprising but not surprising elements. The marketing you need to do for your commodity, your story, is this: cover, blurb, first page, edit. If you do those 4 things, if your cover doesn't suck, if you've edited your story, either like you can't under-edit a story. The more editing you do yourself, or if you give it to someone else to edit for money, just like that exchange, in addition to a good cover, a good edit, a well-written blurb, and an attractive first page that doesn't look like one-sentence paragraphs or spelling mistakes, your book is instantly better than 90% of anything that's ever been published on Amazon Kindle, so the self-published platform. That's the marketing that matters. It sounds obvious, but for me, as someone who doesn't like marketing, I always thought it was just, oh, you need to spam people's attention, you need to be on every social media, everywhere, at all times. Nope. You just need to market your story well by making it good. But making it good means that you have to make it attractive. But that costs a bit of money, so it's an investment. Treat it like an investment. That's my little 5 cents. Cuddly Clem would be able to add to that as well. If you've got some wisdom, Cuddly Clem, please enlighten us, because I think you're closer to that world than any of us. I'm going to dip my toe in a bit later this year, but yeah. Right, yeah. But it's so simple to fix. All it takes is just an edit. Like even your own editing, you can get rid of that. And it's such a simple thing to make your story stand out from the 300, and that's not an off the top of my head figure. That's what I believe a current figure of how many stories are being pushed onto the platform every day. No one's going to compete. If your story looks like it's belongs to the other 290 stories that are published, no one's going to pick it up and read it. Just the sad reality. It's a volume game, and we're not SoundCloud rappers or musicians. It's very difficult to convince people to read your story. Hey, check out my 2.5 minute punk song. It's as simple as click listen. Hey, read my 60,000 word fantasy novella. Isn't simple. We have to be attractive as marketers. Anyway, I've spoken enough about that. Let's get back into the story. I too hate marketing, Solar Star-Lord, until you realize that there's a non-cringy way that you can market your story that actually enhances the quality of the story itself. Do that kind of marketing, because that's good marketing. You don't need to do anything you don't want to regarding social interaction marketing, which I think doesn't really sell stories. It's different. Right, like this, all stupid clients ever. Well, everyone's got their own opinion, don't they? And Solar Star-Lord said that, yeah, like, you can use camera angles, but linger on a scene. You ever seen K-pop? This is a bit of a left field comparison, but this is a really good, what's the K-pop band? The one with there are 5 of them. AKB48 is Japanese. Yes. BTS, thank you. Okay, great example of exactly what I was trying to think of. Weird way of me honing this home. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to count in your head, and I'll do it out loud, how long each visual element lasts on the screen in seconds. Okay? Sounds weird. Ready, go. 0, 1, 2, 2. That was 2 seconds. This one here, 0, 2. That's the longest scene out of the past 10 seconds. Once we get past this, when they're all in the spoopy mansion, covering the eyes, that was like half a second. That was a second. This is 2. No, that's not 2. That's like 1. Half a second, 2 seconds. Way too fast. Every K-pop video does this. Don't write like that. Linger on the scene. There's no way that translates into a narrative. Like, you cannot write one sentence stories. I think I've made my point. And I'm not like taking a huge stab at this, but rather I'm just saying that don't do what that does. Just take a deep breath and establish the narrative in a comfortable way. K-pop's fun, by the way. I have nothing against K-pop, but when I look at the videos, I get seasick. I'm like, my brain slows down. It's like I'm being bombarded. I can't deal with it. Way too much. Yeah. People do that? That's crazy, Clem. It's like, hey, you know, I love what you do with your oil paints. Okay, great. So paint that. Actually, no. Can you do like mixed media and some visual, some videos? That's weird. Why would someone do that? That would be a pet peeve of mine too if it happened to me. Cool. Glad I got the point across. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a stylistic thing. Like, you just watch from the corner of your eye, and it's flashy. But yeah, glad I got the point across. There it is, the last house on Brewer Street. Jimmy Fingers took stock of the mark, his eyes flitting over the usual empty points. Chimney, living room windows, kitchen access. Oh sure, it'd be no trouble to simply jump over the gate and break a window, rush in, rush out, the old smash and grab. But Jimmy was a seasoned professional. See how meticulous he is as he scours the grand old home for lights, life, the whisper of a dog. Thieving is a harder business than most people think, but, well, Jimmy can't exactly tell you that himself, now can he? This is exactly what you said here. It's pretty much the same line. Satisfied that the home is clean, he begins, making sure that his brown rugged sack doesn't make too much silverware-related noise. As he slips up to the kitchen window, staggers over the sill, enters quiet. Everything that we've done here is echoed down here. Let's do exactly the same with here, 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 here. Let's find that pinch point again, where we come down to a new scene clipping, and then we can expand it out. The whole smash and go, yeah, I think that's a nice sort of way of dealing with things. Good. Alrighty. And so, Curse of Winter Nights. So hard to get the frost off the windows. It should be off the windows, comma, he mumbled while scouting the room for valuables. Looking around, there wasn't. Oh, I'm sorry. I've completely changed the tense of your story. It took stock. His eyes thinking over the usual. He began. This sentence is kind of funny. See how meticulous he is. Can also be a past tense thing. Didn't. Oops. Oops. Okay, so be careful with spoken dialogue from a character that has no one to talk to. A simple fix is just italics and get rid of the quotation marks. This makes it internal dialogue. That makes more sense for the reader to engage with. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm sitting here talking to myself. But, yeah. If someone was here writing a story about me. No, but I am actually talking out loud. What am I saying? Yeah, be careful that your character is talking to someone, or if they're not, up in the head. So, the bird asks, see how meticulous he is? Is it like you are explaining the reader of a story or breaking the fourth wall to explain things? This is interesting, yeah, good question. It's not strictly fourth wall breaking. Fourth wall breaking is usually when a character addresses the reader or the narrator... Usually a fourth wall break is when it's not supposed to break. When a narrator addresses the reader, I'm not even sure if that's a fourth wall break. But it is acknowledging that you're reading a story or that you're partaking of the story as it's happening. Kind of a weird sort of halfway between a fourth wall break. So, what's going on here? I don't know if Solar Star-Lord wants this kind of style in his writing. It's up to Solar Star-Lord. But it's really easy to remove. You make your narrator passive in the story rather than actively telling you. I think for a story like this, it might work. So yeah, it's a stylistic thing though. Hey, yes, that's what we want. Sensible edits. Yeah. Yeah, cool. I don't talk to them. Sure, Cuddly Clem, sure. We believe you. Ah, gotcha. I haven't read The Hobbit, but this is it's a bit of an old style of telling a story. I think it matches up. Yeah. I think it could be really, really useful for just framing a story. I like stories like this, that have a narrator that kind of draws you in. Good question. Curse These Winter Nights, or Cursed Winter Nights. Doesn't really matter. Goodness, this bloody hard. Bloody hard to get the frost off the windows. Yeah. Spice up the dialogue. really simple way to inject a bit of character plus and personality. Like, Jimmy Fingers is obviously not the most, how shall we say, I don't imagine that he's the most eloquent gentleman. I don't imagine he takes particularly good care of his personal hygiene. But instead of just getting your narrator to be like, Jimmy has a 5 o'clock shadow all the time, he smells, he's a squat man, sometimes you can form a mental image of a character just from how they talk. And that's why it's really useful just to, as I've said here, to spice up the dialogue, and it's a good way to inject character and personality. It's really, it's easy and it's cheap. You can't go wrong. Well, you can go wrong, so don't go wrong. Just a little bit of spice. Okay, while scouting the room for variables, looking around there wasn't much of value except a wall full of bookshelves. Just holding onto the weight of the books, one more favor and it would definitely cave. Okay, that's a good point there. Now, glittering got his attention with silverware still on the table and a golden candlestick holder. What a good day to be working. Good, you've changed to internal dialogue here. Nice. Jimmy thought. You don't strictly need this. If you established before that his italics are thinking, we'll pick it up again. Houses these days are beginning to get harder and harder to break into. 20 years ago it was easier. A few colleagues have been pulled. Okay, cool. So he hasn't actually climbed in yet, has he? He's sort of, he's looking in from the outside. I'm gonna separate this out because I think that is kind of where... Solo Starlord, you can do one of two things here with this scene. You can start it with, like, imagine he flops himself into the kitchen or the lounge room, wherever you like. Now, he can flip on a light, or use the moonlight outside to help him. This is a good opportunity for you to introduce the bookcases, the silverware, drop all the details in, and what you'll then do keep the scene grounded and then end it by drawing attention to the sound on the floorboard. The other thing you could do is that at the end of the first paragraph here, you just have him walking towards the house. He comes up, he peers in, he sees, like, probably not much, so you want to make him go inside, then reveal the setting. That's up to you. I'll let you decide what you prefer. Alternatively, you can make JF walk to the window, peer in, and then make the call to enter. It's up to you. Looking from the outside in, cool. Sorry, I've missed a few people. Does this sound good? Yeah, I'm with Clem about the fourth wall breaks. I like them too. Usually I prefer them with a little less humor. It's usually always good to see, I think. Yeah, it reminds me of Deadpool and Deadpool's style of humor, of the fourth wall breaks. Looking from the outside. Okay, cool. I'll let you put that in as a detail. You just have to restructure the scene a bit. So, Liberta114 asks, is it a general rule that italics mean speaking to himself? Because, alright, I usually do blah blah blah, I'll slot to herself. Claim answers for me, yeah, exactly. It's standard. Okay. in that case, Solar Star. Excuse me. Let's read a little more then. I mean, I can comment on how all these ideas might fit together. So, he looks in. He may see a bookcase, he may see some silverware, he'll decide to enter. Now, there's not much of value, but the bookcase, the silverware. This here is what I like about, yeah. Now this silverware, the increasing difficulty of break-ins and houses, sorry, no, not houses, this here is a great sort of interesting idea for a behind-the-scenes style story. Having your narrator do the Tolkien style, this is Jimmy Fingers' go on his adventure style of narration, is that it's much easier to naturally incorporate these backstories into the main story. When you don't have a narrator to help you do that, it's a lot more difficult and a lot less believable for a reader to just be ripped out of the narrative and plonked over here and then have to come back into the main narrative drive. But because we've established like a Tolkien-esque narrator, it's a lot easier and a lot more effective. So this could be its own mini paragraph. Like you could expand this highlighted part here. This could be an entire paragraph worth of story, and you can tie it in with the silverware on the table, or the style of house, or something that triggers JF's memory for the grand heist. Regardless of what you do, I do recommend that you make the backstory related to the front story. It's easy to be like Jimmy Fingers creeps across the floorboards, and over there he sees like a 7-pronged candelabra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it's gonna be even, like a weird kind of candelabra, like a 6-pronged candelabra. Jimmy Fingers is reminded of a time when his great friend Jeremy Toes decided to rob the governor's Victoria estate or something, and pulls off like a really nice daring feat, and the question is, why is Jimmy remembering it? So that's for you as the author to tell us. But it's a good opportunity to sort of weave the backstory with the front story. Weave the backstory with the front story, and your reader will be impressed. Let's push on. So that he's still outside, he's looking in, fine. But just the order is a bit out of order, and that's partly my fault. Now, there's a sound of a dampened click on the floorboard. He thought it was strange, but he reckoned it was just a loose floorboard or something. And he began putting the silverware and candlestick into the old sack. So he sees the silverware, he takes the silverware. Backstory is fun, isn't it? A lot of authors like to get lost in their backstory. I think a lot of very new writers think a lot about the backstory and about the worlds they create, especially common in epic fantasy and other styles of fantasy. You go in with this notion of what the world's going to be like, and you draw it all out, and there are backstories everywhere. I think backstory is most effective when it serves the front story. My glasses are even dirtier than when I started. Let's try that again. Backstory serves the story well if it interfaces with the front story, with the main story. Sometimes you may realize, like in a story I'm writing right now, which started off life back in 2006, the very end, 16, sorry, 2 years ago, or really 1.5 years ago. And the backstory for me got so interesting that I realized it was the story, and the front story I've now discarded. Isn't that weird? So sometimes they can go in reverse. Sometimes the backstory ends up being the story. Yes. Still not quite there with the glasses. After you put them, the last item in your sack, you notice that where he just snatched the silver plate lay a piece of paper. So he picks it up and it reveals a paper. The note had some numbers written on it. And then we have a bit of dialogue. So we got Herbology. Isn't that a book? He thought to himself and walked over to the bookshelf. I think he puts it back on. Alright, release plank. No, so he walks over the release plank. Anthropology, what in God's name is that? Astronomy? Not the right book. Geography. I already know where I am, thank you very much. Herbology, that's the one. So you got Herbology. So he pulled the book out and heard a mechanism shift in the wall, so like a kind of lever thing. The crooked floorboard moved a slight bit, revealing a button. Just a single black iron button. Let's see, 3 click. It's the sound of the mechanism punctured its way through the dark wall flooring. Next is 2 clicks. Another mechanism began moving by the bookshelf. We're getting somewhere. 3 times again. And one more. The book split in the middle, entering the room, revealed a space full of glass files with disturbing creatures in them. Here we go. The big table full of unusual instruments. Okay, there are... Let's break the scenes down. I think what I'll do tonight is we'll talk about the structure of a story and how we can move a lot of these little flag posts into some bigger ideas. And then, instead of working through line by line the grammar on all of the sentences, I think we can come to a bit of an understanding of how the story needs to be structured, and then you can go back and kind of put those ideas in order and flesh them out. I call it adding meat to the bones. Like your first draft, even if it's as simple as a couple of sentences, that's your skeleton. It's your job then to go and add the meat to the skeleton. And then you'll have a human at the end. A very meaty human. Return. No, but that's interesting. They're good story details. Liberta 114 needs more info on the house. We've got some ideas down here. Let's deal with those as we come to them, and let's break the scenes down so far. So we've got the introduction. Jimmy's 7 fingers is... I don't know how many fingers he has. You got how many fingers? Is standing outside his mark, looking in. Jimmy enters the room and takes stock of what's around him. You've done something good, which is you've made a point of introducing the bookshelf straight up. So introduce bookshelf and silverware. Addition to the floorboard. 2A. Additional backstory about the grand heist. and how it relates with the Jimmy snatches and covers the note, and then decides to return the book. Finds a switch 4. Into the here are your 4, or really 5, perhaps even 6 paragraphs worth of ideas. We've already done the first one. He's standing outside his mark, looking in. It establishes the scene, the mark, the character, what he's doing, and away we go. That's what a good introduction does. Number 2 is he's here, he's ready to steal. Yep, I see a bookshelf, nothing there yet, but it looks like it's sagging, good detail, but there's the mark. Now, in addition, you probably want to throw in some backstory about some grand escapades. Maybe giving you a sense of why he might be stealing. Bonus points if you can. I've got a good idea. Say if Jimmy is attempting to steal some basic silverware to suck up. There's something to be said about character motive. I don't know what your motivation is for Jimmy, or what Jimmy's motivation is, full stop. Making him a burglar means that we need a small insight into why he's doing what he's doing. The classic burglar thing is that he's a ruffian, he's a street thug, this is what he does. A burglar is what a burglar is. You can make it a bit interesting though. You can make Jimmy Fingers like insecure about who he is, and trying to sort of say, hey, you know, you stole that sapphire the other week from the Queen's Royal Bank. I got some silverware from the baker. It's like two very different things, and you can play it off as humor. Just a suggestion. But throwing in a little bit of understanding about Jimmy's character will make your reader instantly clicking with Jimmy. If Jimmy is just like a bit of a faceless burglar, your reader's not going to be as engaged with the story. Even if Jimmy is as simple as your run-of-the-mill, nothing special, no bells and whistles thief, totally fine. Just add a little bit of information to help the reader get in their heads that Jimmy is a human being who does human being stuff. Yeah. What on earth has gone on here? So Liberta114 raises a good point, that if you are going to, and I haven't read too far down, right, exactly, here, it's a laboratory. Once the laboratory is full of jars and vials, clear liquid, insects, human parts, and other parts of animals that are beyond the point of being able to recognize them. Here we go. Coupling this here with the green, ooh, that's lurid, with Liberta's desire to know more. If we're going to have the setting play a part in the narrative, and obviously it looks like we will, then we need to establish from point 0 that this is not your ordinary house. Help establish the reader, in the reader's mind, This is no ordinary house, or overemphasize the ordinariness. Your call. You can do one of two things. This aids the setup. Yep. Because if you walk into a house and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, bam, hey, it's a secret lab. Your reader will have expected at least a little clue before then. Not that it's a lab, but just that something's not quite right about this house. Maybe it's something in the air as Jimmy, 17 Fingers, walks through the living room. Some sort of tilt in the atmosphere, a bit of a gravity that he's not used to. Or is it just the home is too clean? Like it's super clean. Weirdly clean. You know what I mean? Like even if from the outside it looks fine, just something that's a bit off about the house. Help us establish that. Now, what else is going on here in the chat box? So it's supposed to be just a single standing house with a big garden in a street full of single houses. So in other words, it's like a carbon copy of other things. Totally fine. But once we get in there, maybe drop a little bit of a weirdness. That's just my suggestion. Lyrebird suggestions. As a lover of all things descriptive, I agree about more description. I'm with Cuddly Claim on this one. The bird says, if there are hidden doors, tunnels, it should be unique from the other houses. I'm inclined to agree, but I can also see it, like, flipped on its head and just have a really normal house. But, like, it's a bit too normal, you know what I mean? That can also be a really effective way of doing it. Hidden in plain sight, so Solar Star-Lord. Yep, you can definitely go for that. Wood floor, carpet, wallpaper, paint. Clem needs details, Solar Star-Lord. She needs the deets. Big deal to collection, maybe. This is taking an interesting turn, this story. Yeah. I recommend Solar Star-Lord tie it in with the reveal, like normal exterior. Add a detail or two that hints that something is wrong. Details, please. Yeah, and it's totally up to you. Like, as a reader, I kinda don't care. The weirder it is, the better. Like weirdly comfortable carpet. Like Jimmy pedicured fingers comes in and flops down onto the carpet, but it's really soft. It takes his weight perfectly, and he thinks to himself, why is this carpet so perfect? Stupid idea, but you need to introduce an element like that where it makes him unsettled. Something has to unsettle him. Like a big collection of phalluses would probably do that, but you probably don't want to go that deep. This is good. Roberta's suggestion here, which just popped off the screen, about Jimmy noticing a man bringing huge black bags every night, like assuming that they were body parts, but Jimmy assumes that they were just like wares to steal. Detail like that is good. That needs to come probably before Jimmy arrives, though, or Jimmy could see like a delivery arriving. Soul Starlord says, like, thinking there's a scientist living there on his own, and every night he comes home and works on freakish experiments. Nice. Good, good. So you can, have a too clean idea. Thank you. Thank you, Clem. It's a nice cover. It depends how, like, humorous you want to be about this as well. Like, if you want to play it as a straight story, or if you want to make it a bit weird, a bit of less center humor. I think a reader would appreciate, like, really soft carpet. That's what we're taking away from tonight's story. It's like, your reader wants the soft carpet, so give them the soft carpet. Words I never thought I'd hear myself saying. Giving writing advice and saying, just add some carpet, make it really soft. Soft carpet. Really soft. Yeah. I've seen an author do something like that. Soft carpet, alright. Yeah. I've seen an author do something, not 5 pages, but a very long description of a very benign bit of detail, and it was very funny. Just the level of detail was just this person went into describing something, and it was infectious. Like, it was just so detailed. You wanted more and more of it. Incredible. So yeah, that could also work. Ooh. Wow, you've just hit on a multi-million-dollar idea. Carpet and narrative. Just together at last. It's what we need. It's what's been missing from the literary scene. Carpet. On your feet. As you read. Wow. Nice. Suggestion? Make one of these books really weird. Something a mad scientist like me would have. I'm a mad scientist. In training. Yeah, so pick one, and what would be a good example? Like, I don't know, but that's yeah, have a think about this. Don't try it with water. Cork removal from dark places. So what you'd be wanting to do, what you want to establish from the start to the end of these parts. So from opening line to the reveal is a sense that all is not normal within this normal street. That this otherwise normal burglary? Yeah, nailed it. That this otherwise normal burglary is about to be turned on its head. Now, you do this subtly, and you do it with things like overemphasizing the ordinariness, some tiny element upsetting him in part 2. The book names is a really easy one, just drop in a little weird one, and then the rotary dial speaks for itself, I guess, and then bam, mad scientist lab. But you want to be conscious that in order for your reader to really feel the reveal, you need to make them feel as though they've earned it. You want them to come along with you on the journey. You want them to be there from the very first down to the moment that Jimmy Fingers sees this lab. If you just write it like a list of things, like Jimmy's here, he's gonna steal your shit, he looks through the window, he's stealing some silverware. That bookcase looks pretty old. Oh, there's a note under the candelabra, or the candlestick holder. Let's put the book back. Ah, secret switch. Ah, secret lab. If you write it a bit like that, what happens is that the detail kind of just washes over the reader, and they're not primed. They're not primed for the reception of the reveal. That's important. It's like, if you're painting with oils, you have to prime your canvas. You have to, or unless you buy it pre-primed, but you have a piece of canvas and you need to wash over this priming agent to then make the oil stick and without making it really crappy and crusty. If you don't do that, your oils will just look horrible on the canvas. In the same way, you need to ease these ideas in, just very gently hint to your reader that, hey, something's not right here. Stick around and I'll tell you why. And the reader will go, ooh, I want to know. And then they'll read. Book out and mold phalluses. TTLSCC, you've got your first customer right here. Give us all advanced copies, please. I too would be very interested to know how to. Yes. I love how it's plural as well. Like, you don't stop at one. You want the plural. Thieving for Dummies would be weird for him. Thieving for Dummies would be great. That's really good humor. Like, he picks up a book and it's Thievery for Dummies. That's great. Industry secrets, eh? Where do babies come from? Ah, yes, how to add fingers back on. You've got the makings here of some really funny suggestions. You want to do the mad scientist one, and maybe add a funny one too. You're in control of how funny you want this story to be as well. Like, there's huge potential for this story to be humorous, for readers' expectations to be constantly undermined. Like, whenever you refer to Jimmy Finger's name, you could give him a new middle name every time, like what I've been doing. I've just been doing it because I'm just talking. But your reader might appreciate that if, like, every time you mention Jimmy Finger's name, his name changes. It's a new and weird combination of however many fingers he has. The point is, though, that you're in charge of what kind of level of humor you want to inject in the story. If you want to play this straight and make it a bit more like a spooky mystery thing, totally fine. You just need to dial the humor right back. You can have a mix. But I tend to feel that, like, it's a bit more binary. You either lean into the horror with a tiny bit of humor, or you lean into the humor with a bit of horror. Trying to go straight up the middle, it becomes a bit messy then. You don't know what it wants to be. Like the movie Tusk, which is about a Canadian radio podcast host who, one thing leads to another, becomes a walrus. It's a funny movie, but it's also quite horrifying. Fortunately, though, that's set up properly so that it's scary, and then it becomes quite funny towards the end. But there's a moment where it's not a funny movie, and then, like, halfway through it's like, yeah, actually, this is a funny movie. It's weird. I think the tension between horror, mystery, and humor is a bit difficult to get right. So I recommend sticking into one of the more binary territories. Just personal preference, though. I'm in agreement with Clem. We've got some good ideas boiling. Whether it's TTLACC's newfound interest in molds and casts and resin work, maybe resin work, I don't know. Yeah, or debating how many fingers should be added back on to Jimmy Fingers' hand. I'd open secret doors. Yeah, there you go. Like, you've got great ideas here. Just any one of those would be fun. Funny Mad Scientist does have a nice ring to it, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Good twist. Good twist. Yeah, right. I haven't seen Swiss Army Man, but sometimes you can get that balance right between funny and horrifying. Hmm. Um, let's take a little look at your ideas to come, and then we can. We got up to here, so like he goes through. He's in the laboratory. You done that part? Now walking. Harry Potter. Walking backwards because he got spooked by a head opening his eyes. Yep, so he walks up to the jar. Blah! I'm alive. Classic. And one of the glass files because it twitches. Nice. He bumped against the table, knocking everyone onto a glass house of golden liquid, splashed onto the floor. Golden burglar, gotcha. Hoping the person who lived here hadn't heard it. After 30 seconds of silence, he looked at a tiny special golden goo on the floor. He noticed it's spreading near everything it touched. What is this kind of sorcery? Door slams open, arguments, conversations, noticing liquid on the ground. So I assume like other people come in? Grabs barrel with the stamp Gold Rush antidote on it. Crook grabs a pair of bellows, a long flexible rubber tube, and the way they put it out under the pressure of the spreading gold. Once it's done and it's gone, they say their thanks, goodbye, and learn their lessons. Once the crook is out the door, he walks back and notices the other vial is missing. So you've got a... I think this is the scientist who comes in. Like, hey, what have you done? You've spilt my gold. And they extinguish it, but he's taken the gold. So the burglar ends up taking the other vial of gold. Interesting. Hmm. And then that's where we leave it. So the implication is that the burglar is now in possession of this gold thing. If you want to continue with this thread, you'll have to make it clear as to why, like, what this golden thing is really doing. It was spreading everything to everything it touched, so it's like a virus or an ever expanding. Cool. So you have to make sure that the reader understands. Will it be valuable? Will it be a bioweapon? Dangerous, etc. Like, give us a clear understanding as to what this golden thing will do. When the scientist says goodbye and they depart, and he's got the gold thing, then we know the implication of it. That's right, yeah, it's the one with Daniel Radcliffe in it, yeah. Scientist wakes up and he sees what's happening. Cool. And after the scientist tells Jimmy that it's wrong, they say sorry, no charges pressed because he at least helped him. Ah, interesting. Oh no. Hmm. Yeah, interesting. I think that can work if we... keep that motive there as well. If you want to push the story into this territory, I think make sure you help the reader understand why it is that Jimmy is compulsively stealing this thing even though he knows it's a bit dangerous. Does he still want to show himself as like a competent burglar because of these other robbers who have done this amazing burglary, but Jimmy 17.5 fingers hasn't done a good burgle yet. So he thinks, aha, wait until I go back to the den and show those other upstart burglars that I too can burgle. Um, as long as there's some motive behind what Jimmy does, what he does, and it could be an ignorant motive. He might not care that this is like the world's best bioweapon. He's seen it in action, sure, but maybe his desire to be liked will override that. Or maybe he transcends beyond that and he goes, oh, I don't care about that, like showing those other burglars anymore. This could make me rich. And then he steals it. 70.5 because yeah, give us a motive. Maybe you would like to tie this in with the other burglars. Burgle boy I am. Or perhaps he wants the money that could come with such a dangerous thing. Either way, whatever the case, give us an understanding of his motive. You've also got to make it convincing that the scientist probably can't go to the police. So I guess science guy can't exactly go to the police because of his unregistered lab. Guessing it's a violation of council code. You can strike up a deal between councillor and... sorry, not councillor. Yeah, I think that's reasonable too. But have a think about this sort of this part of the story as well. You've got a nice advantage of having such a flexible design to this story that, like, you could cut it halfway here to the point where he's at the laboratory, and you could write a whole number of different branching stories from this one point. As Liberta 114 mentioned before, the burglar could become a new test specimen. We could think of some other ideas too, like I'm trying to think of ones that aren't so weird, but this does have a lot of potential to sort of push out into its own territory as well. I guess the point I'm trying to think of is it's flexible, so have a think. And there's no harm in writing this second part too and just deciding whether it's a good fit and if you like how the story's progressed. But yeah. True, it's gold. Gold is gold. Gotcha. There's your motive. There's your motive. Easy. Easy money. Good stuff. Alrighty. I think that's probably a good start to go from. What I recommend you do, Solar Star Lord, is to go through your ideas that you have. Think of them like a bit like a movie scene, not like a Korean pop music video. Like a scene with more flesh to it. And write it out like this. Like more sort of condensed paragraph versions of your story. And then, after you've done that for your plan, you can go through and start to try and write like this, where you're in the head of the narrator, and you're telling a bit of a slow story about all the details. Give Clem the details that Clem desires. Oh, sorry, Vera. I missed something up here. So reading is supposed to be sure things tops not to a scientist. Tells Jimmy what's wrong with so sorry. Oh yeah, cool. No, I did read that. Yep, cool. Yeah, and then just go through and flesh out your paragraph draft, this thing here, into like a full-blown narrative then, and just work up from there. Probably what I do, yeah, I'd give it a bit more planning towards the second part of the story. Actually, you've already got like a good plan here. Go through and um, yeah, so you got like an after the reveal, etc., etc. So here's where you condense these points here down into more of a paragraph summary. And then go through and yeah, just write. And then at that stage, we can then start to look at how the grammar works, how all the lines fit together, how the narrative is flowing, if the paragraphs are too long or too short, if the ideas are being conveyed in a sharp, imagery-based way. Yeah, I think at this stage of the story, we're a bit too early for that. We still need to be a bit more in the planning phase. So yeah. Yeah, cool. Glad to help out Soul Star-Lord. I haven't done an edit like this before. Yeah, cool. Work on it and send it back when you've got more of a like a fully fleshed, meaty skeleton. Give the deets. Yes. Give Clementine her deets. Yeah, I'm glad to work on this. I haven't done a more narrative focused edit before. This is the first one I've done where it's more talking about the possibilities of a story and how it can all work together. It's 10:49, but I think I may call it quits for tonight unless you have a specific thing that you'd like me to deal with. Like in the past, when I've finished up early, sometimes I kind of just open it up and get someone to ask a question, or I can write something and deal with like a demonstration. But if no one's got any burning questions, then I'll wrap up the stream. Oh, one thing I will say. Yeah, ditto Solar Starlord. I think it'd be interesting to sort of see how you have a go at writing out the flesh of the story and see where it takes us. It's okay, Solar Starlord. We don't need to judge you. Oh, and look, all first drafts are a bit rubbish anyway. You know, we want to lead with our best foot, don't we? We want to show other people the best of our writing abilities. So don't judge yourself on the quality of your first draft. Don't do that. I'll I'll read that in my spare time. I don't want to broadcast something onto over the stream and be like, let's all laugh at Solar Starlord. I don't want to do that. That's mean. No, I think like in all seriousness, like you don't have to beat yourself up about the way that you used to write or like it's interesting to see how you've changed as a writer. But I think like you know you do what you do. No one's fantastic when they first start. You just keep doing it and keep what you've written and look back at it and be like, oh yeah, I used to be at that stage. Yeah, and try not to judge yourself from a future stage. Just judge yourself where you are right now, and that will help you to not get discouraged as you improve. Yeah. Check out this loser trying to improve himself. Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, no. Um, deep, deep sarcasm, by the way, in case you can't hear it in my voice. How do I notice that I improved? Um, hmm. Well, some people use that, like, gut shame that they have when they look back at their old writing and they go, oh man, that sucks. I used to write like that. Some people use that as a measure of, oh wow, I've improved. Other times it's looking at the length of your paragraphs. It's a pretty clear one. Um, you'll go from short to really long to middle size to variety. What you'll also be able to do. Hmm. Yes, I'm TTLACC. Is that a fact? Genitalia metaphors aside, I think another, maybe a bit more subtle way to tell that you've improved is you have a story up here. Everyone does. It's a most often a visual thing. At least for me, it is. How you translate what goes on up here to what goes on the page in front of you, how that works is it's often a bit of a disconnected process for people starting out their writing or inexperienced writers, early stage writers. You have this internal sense that, oh, it's not quite right. It's not what I wanted. It's not the image I had in my head. Maybe a different way of looking at your improvement is looking at how satisfied you are in terms of the image you present to yourself versus the words that come on the page. They don't even need to be pretty words, they don't even need to be the most well structured, the grandest narrative, the most intricate plot devices. None of that. It's just about being effective. How do you how you see your writing as an effect of your imagination. And the closer you become to being satisfied, maybe for many people that could be just the way it makes you feel. Maybe for other people it's an improvement in grammar and structure, and you know that the construction of it is a lot tighter and the image it generates is better. It's a multifaceted thing. Maybe that's how you do it. Hmm. Hmm. So, Liberto 114, yeah. Let's have a. It's a difficult thing to know until you know it. Some, sometimes you might just have to experience it firsthand and be like, oh, I'm improving. You'll know when you know. Yeah, and if you can say that, like, then you have been improving all the time. And that's great. That's really good. That's the best thing you can ask for. That you improve. I mean, I hope I improve. Every time I write a story, I want to improve. I never want to be comfortable or rest on my laurels. You know, I want to always be better. And not in like Ash Ketchum JRPG, friendship is the power to overcome the evil sort of like crazy I must do better all the time sort of way. Not like that, but just a way that you're comfortable with, that you feel you want to push yourself, but not in a way that makes you uncomfortable. You just want better. Yeah. That's interesting, Solar Star Lord. Like he constructs the words in his head. That's interesting because it makes the structure of a narrative hopefully quite tight. Hmm. And that is difficult, Roberta, because yeah, maybe part of that is just learning to not be too critical of your own writing. Oh, sure, like you have to be critical when you're editing. You have to think clearly and work with things that aren't working to the best of your skills and capabilities. But that self-doubt can be hard to overcome. I think you've got to learn to, and this is just general advice, not specifically to you, but just in general, that getting to that stage where you write for the pleasure of it will help immensely in overcoming that self-doubt and that self-criticism. I mean, what you write could be absolutely awful. I've written some awful stories, you know, when I was first starting out, some terrible stories. But I was having fun with it. And I think that's why I kept going. I wasn't so critical about, I mean, I knew what I was writing was bad, but I kind of didn't worry about it. I knew that if I kept trying, I'd hopefully feel better about it. And I did. And that kind of seems like it's a bit silly of me to say, like, it's just like an obvious thing. Like, you keep doing it, you get better. Duh. But feeling it and understanding it for yourself firsthand, that's the important thing. You can listen to all the people in the world tell you that, but until you finally get to that stage where you're like, you know, that's not bad what I've written. It can be better, but it's not bad. Unless you've experienced that, it won't mean anything to you. So to speed that along, I guess just keep having fun. Make it fun. And then you'll have the opportunity to do as Clem's done, to look back at the old writing and go, wow. I've got the first novel I ever wrote on a hard disk in the closet, and that's where it's staying. Um, it was, oh my god, the first story I ever wrote was just awful. Ugh, just thinking about it. Oh, but it was fun. Like, I loved doing it. It was a fun story to write. No way in hell I'd show anyone that story, but that's not the point of it, right? Like, you don't. I mean, as a teenager, you might sit down and be like, I'm gonna be the next Christopher Paolini. I'm gonna, like, smash this story out and write 4 books in the series, and I will be the world's most prolific 15-year-old fantasy writer. Um, we sometimes start our journeys like that, and then we realize that we're not quite that good. Um, but hopefully we have fun with our cringe stories. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You gotta have fun with it. You gotta love the thrill of the story and love constructing the worlds. Sudoku. But you know, that's the basis where we start, isn't it? Like, we all start with our crappy little stories, but we get better. We just do. There's no way you can get worse. Like, if I think back to that first story, there's absolutely no way I could write worse than that. Like, I'd have to try in a very deliberate way to write that bad. Like, thinking back to my own writing. So then the next stage is to, after we all laugh at our cringe writing, um, the next stage is to get comfortable with the new versions of our writing. Look, it may be the case that you're comfortable with it now, and then in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 5 years' time, it becomes your new cringe writing. But don't worry about it. Just you are only capable of doing what you're capable of doing at any one point in time. You shouldn't worry about what future you thinks. You just gotta give it an old crack. And I don't know what I was going for there. I think the point I was making was just do it. Yeah. Coolies. Um, don't let your dreams be dreams. I was channeling the Shire there. But he's right, you know, don't let your dreams be dreams. Don't let your memes be memes. Alrighty, I'm probably gonna wrap up pretty soon. My voice is getting sore. Um, Announcement? No stream this Sunday. I'm meeting up with a friend, so no stream. I'll be back next Thursday, this time. And I'll have to go fetch another story. If you've got something you'd like me to edit, please send it through. Jump over to Discord, send me a whisper on Twitch or Discord, or send me an email. But yes, I would love to edit your work. Thank you to Solar Style for sending this through. It was good to work through the narrative elements and get our fingers stuck into the planning stage, I think, and to look at the little bare bones starting points of the scenes and to pinch them together. I really enjoyed doing that, sort of picking the point at which you go, okay, here, this is your scene, and then to write it out. It's really useful, I think, and hopefully you found it useful too. Right, exactly, says Clem. Like, your retrospective will show you how far you've come. Yeah, please do. Please do, Clem. Send it over. Love to have a little edit. Yes. Yeah, and great to hear Solar Starlord. Yeah. Thanks for letting me edit your story. Coolies. Hey, no worries, Lavetta. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I'm glad it's helpful. That's good to know. I hope that what we do here is useful for everyone to contribute and just to watch what's going on. So yeah, thank you. And with that, I'll call it a night. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We will see you next week. Not Sunday. Next week, Thursday. Okay.